The amount of planets in the universe is infinite, and the only one we know that contains life is Earth. Why Earth? What qualities and characteristics does Earth have that other planets do not, that allow life to be possible? Is Earth special? How many other planets have these qualities, and what is the possibility of life on them? Why is Earth the only planet in our solar system that allows life to thrive? What qualities do the other planets have that cancel out the chance of life ever being possible on them? What makes it possible for us to maintain and sustain life on Earth? All these questions can be answered by studying the location of the planet in its solar system and the location of the habitable zone of that solar system, and understanding how critical it is to life.
What is a habitable zone? It is a zone in a galaxy around a central star that is the perfect distance to allow the right atmospheric pressure and temperature to support liquid water. Because with water there is life, and scientists have yet to find an organism that can survive without water. Let's take a look at our solar system and our planets. We understand what a habitable zone is, and we know that Earth is in the habitable zone. But what properties and characteristics of other planets make them unable to support life?
First stop is Mercury, the closest planet to the Sun, which is not in the habitable zone, and being so close to the Sun makes it reach extremely high temperatures during the day. Mercury is also very small, and its size means that its gravity is not strong enough to hold a normal atmosphere. This makes Mercury's atmosphere non-existent. With no atmosphere, heat can't be trapped, leading to a significant temperature drop at night. All of these characteristics make water and life impossible.
Now moving along to the next planet, Venus. Venus is known for being a stormy desert. It is very similar to the size, mass, composition, density, and gravity of Earth. So is life possible on Venus? Unfortunately, no. Venus has a very thick atmosphere made of almost complete carbon dioxide and a surface pressure 90 times that of Earth. Its thick atmosphere results in a severe runaway greenhouse effect, making it so heat cannot escape, causing Venus to be scorching hot. It's actually the hottest world in the solar system. It also takes 243 Earth days to rotate on its axis, making it the slowest of our major planets. This sluggish rotation makes it impossible to generate a sufficient magnetic field. Venus sits on the inner edge of the habitable zone, but is not in it. There are studies that suggest Venus's atmosphere was once similar to Earth, making it possible to have liquid water, but that was billions of years ago.
The next planet is Mars, the fourth planet from the Sun. Mars is much smaller than Earth and is nicknamed the Red Planet because it's covered in a red dust that makes the atmosphere have a red-orange tint. However, all this dust leads to crazy dust storms that rearrange the surface. On Mars, there are also many inactive volcanoes. The atmosphere is mostly carbon dioxide and is very thin, about 100 times thinner than Earth, making it a very cold planet. There are 2 polar ice caps on Mars, and if the south polar ice cap were to melt, it would be enough water to cover the entire surface. Canyons and channels have been found, leading to the speculation that water and maybe life was possible on Mars at one point in time. Unfortunately, even though Mars has many important characteristics for life, its lack of liquid water, dead volcanoes, and very thin atmosphere make it impossible for life to ever form.
Now we have crossed the frost line and reached the outer solar system. Our first planet in the outer system is Jupiter, the most massive planet in the solar system. Jupiter is a gas giant, therefore it has no solid surface and is made mostly of hydrogen and helium. Jupiter does have a magnetic field, and it actually has the strongest magnetic field out of all the planets. Even though magnetic fields are important to life, Jupiter will never be a candidate for life. It is millions of miles away from the habitable zone, has no solid surface. Scientists, however, said, but there is no evidence to support, that if there was to be life on Jupiter, it would have to be deep inside where the temperature is warm. After Jupiter comes Saturn, most popular for its beautiful rings. Saturn is like Jupiter in almost all its characteristics. Saturn is a gas giant, lacks a solid surface, and is even farther from the habitable zone than Jupiter. Scientists have found water vapor that exists in the atmosphere and the clouds around Saturn. So does that mean Saturn can have life? No. Water vapor is not liquid water, and for the same reasons as Jupiter, Saturn is still an unqualified candidate for life. After Saturn comes Uranus. Uranus is not considered a gas giant and is generally called an ice giant because more than 80% of its mass is made up of a fluid mix of water, methane, and ammonia ices. The large amount of methane in the atmosphere gives Uranus its beautiful blue-green color. Since Uranus is made from ice and gas, it does not have a solid surface. It also has a very unusual tilt, giving it extreme seasons roughly 20 years long, which is the equivalent of 84 Earth years. Uranus does have a magnetic field, yet there are many obvious factors that makes life highly unlikely on Uranus. It is not in the habitable zone. It is mostly made from toxic ice with some gas and has no solid surface. Uranus does get warmer towards its core, but the pressure is so intense that it would most likely crush any form of life. The last planet in our system and the farthest one from the Sun is Neptune. In appearance, Neptune is a very blue planet because just like Uranus, it has methane in its atmosphere. Neptune's atmosphere is mostly hydrogen and helium, but it is still considered an ice giant because it still has a fluid mixture of water, ammonia, and methane ices. Could Neptune ever have life? Most likely not. Life still needs a form of energy to survive, like the energy planet Earth gets from the Sun and from volcanoes. Neptune lacks both a source of energy and water, and you need both criteria to sustain the most basic form of microbial life. The only chance life has on Neptune would be deep inside its interior, where the temperature and pressure increases, and water could remain a liquid. This, however, is impossible to study, so we will never know. So now we have finished traveling through our solar system, and in our solar system there is only one planet that we know of that has the ability to sustain life. Every solar system will have a habitable zone around its central star, and life is very unlikely for those planets outside of that zone. But even if a planet is in the habitable zone, it still does not guarantee life. Mars and Venus are both considered in the habitable zone and do not currently have life, but there are possibilities that it once could support life. The planet has to be in the perfect position in the habitable zone. Venus is in the habitable zone, but it is still too close to the Sun. And Mars is still too far from the Sun, and Earth, being in the middle of the two, is in the perfect distance.
There are many other factors that are critical characteristics like the planet's size, distance from the Sun, temperature, a properly working atmosphere, a strong magnetic field, rotation speed, volcanic activity, energy source, and liquid water. And surprisingly, many of these characteristics are causes and effects of each other. A planet has to contain all these properties in perfection of one another, meaning perfect size, perfect distance, perfect rotation, perfect magnetic field, and etc. To sustain life, the possibility of a planet forming in the perfect spot of its habitable zone and contain all these perfect characteristics simultaneously is very possible, but also not very common.